Mr. Hice, sir, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. DeMarco, for being here. In the previous panel, Chief Monahan testified that the decision to install the fencing was actually made 2 days before June 1st. It was on Saturday, the 30th of May, and that, of course, was in the aftermath of the most violent protests that took place over the weekend. The Park Service and the U.S. Secret Service rightfully wanted to take steps to prevent that from happening. Were you a part of those discussions 2 days prior?
No, sir.
On the 1st of June, what kind of role did you have? Were you in a senior position of command and control, or were you there primarily as a supportive role?
I was not a commander, nor was I the officer in charge. I was simply the liaison between the Park Police and the DC National Guard. I would receive the missions and taskings and then alert the senior OIC, officer in charge on the ground, of what the Park Police was requesting.
So a supportive role
yes, sir.
In that regard, okay. Thank you. You state that the fencing did not arrive until 9 p.m. on June 1st, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
The folks on the ground with the Park Police and the Secret Service share a different timeline. Here's the timeline that they have. The fencing company site manager arrived at 3:30 p.m. on June 1st. The company's staff arrived shortly thereafter. The fencing material was delivered at 5 p.m. The order was given at 6:23. The square was cleared by 6:50, and trucks with material reportedly moved in the square immediately, and construction began at 7:30. So, I mean, there's not a matchup in your timeline and what actually took place. How do you reconcile this?
Yes, sir. From my position, which was on 8th Street and 16th Street, the first sighting I had of the 18-wheeler carrying the non-scalable fence was at 9 p.m. that evening, on or around, and the completion of that fence did not occur until about 10:30 p.m. later that evening.
So I guess from what you're saying, there's at least the possibility that from the location where you were not able to see all the activity and realize what was taking place elsewhere.
That's correct, sir. However, the fence was only being installed along 8th Street from Connecticut to Vermont.
Okay, but the timeline, it actually started at 7:30, so I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt that your location, you didn't perhaps see all that was taking place.
It's possible, sir.
You stated just a few moments ago about the 3 warnings. Your testimony here, ran back and was looking at it. You said that at 6:20, the Park Police issued, and these are your words, Park Police issued first of 3 warning announcements to the demonstrators directing them to disperse. And so you just said you didn't hear that, but your testimony says they gave 3 warnings.
So they did, but I did not hear the full proclamation that was being given. But around that time at 6:20 p.m., the warnings began.
Okay, so if you didn't hear them, how were you aware that they took place?
Because I was approximately 30 yards away, and I saw the Park Police officer with the megaphone laying on a bench holding the
You were 30 yards away from where? I'm trying to picture this.
From essentially the President Jackson statue.
Okay, so you heard the announcement.
But I couldn't make out exactly what they were saying, sir.
Okay, but enough to where you knew it was the first of 3 warnings to disperse.
Negative, sir. Unless
That's your testimony. That's your written testimony.
Correct. If I was standing up at the line, I would have no idea what they were actually saying. I was in a position of privilege where I could hear, and I expected something to be coming from them.
Okay. Again, your written testimony says at 6:20 is very precise, that they gave the first of 3 warnings. Anyway, we'll go on from there. Let me just ask in closing, Mr. DeMarco, I thank you for your service and a great deal of service that you've done, and even politically. Have you ever run for Congress?
Yes, sir.
And when did you do that?
2018.
And what party were you?
A Democrat.
Okay. I think it's very interesting that how a lot of these dots connect as we continue defaming the police department and attacking them for their stated purpose of protecting public safety and the rule of law and the safety of our law enforcement. And, Mr. Chairman, I'll yield back for now.
Gentleman yields. Ms. Holland, recognized.
Thank you, Chairman.